Thank you, Kentucky National Guard Trio Band over here for playing those patriotic songs for us to kind of warm us up before we get started. I'm Larry Montgomery, if you don't know, be the Master of Ceremonies this year. Once again, please turn off your cell phones if you have them on. And I noticed as I was walking around and looking for a few individuals that we wanted to be up front. And some of you probably didn't know who was sitting in front of you or behind you. And you're probably thinking, who is this behind me? So let's just take a moment, turn around, the person next to you, and shake their hand. More than likely, it's a veteran. So please do that. Thank you for doing that. You know, we have a problem here in Franklin County, and we're working on trying to dissolve it. We have 2 or 3 veteran programs going on at the same time. You probably noticed this year that our program, sponsored by the Elks and the VFW and the American Legion, we moved all of our time frames back so that we could help accommodate other veterans programs that were taking place. And that's a great problem to have in your community, that you have too many programs trying to recognize and honor veterans. So we're working on that. Each year we'll get a little bit better. Veterans Day is a time for us to pay our respects to those who have served our country. We stand united in respect for you, our veterans. This holiday started as a day to reflect upon the courage of those who died in our country's service, and it was originally called Armistice Day. It fell on November the 11th. That is the anniversary of the signing of the armistice of the end of World War I. However, in 1954, the holiday was changed to Veterans Day in order to account for all veterans of all wars. We celebrate and honor Americans veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Will you please stand for the next items, the invocation, the posting of colors, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem. At this time, the Reverend Jim Jump from the Leestown Gospel Church will lead us in prayer. Uncover, please.
What a beautiful, beautiful day the Lord has given us. And when I come in this morning, I noticed that usually when someone comes here, a veteran or relative, they've been sitting in about the same area or the same seats. And as I look out this morning, there's a few seats from this year to last year that is no longer them there. They've been replaced. My heart goes out to that family. And you know, in the troubled times we're in today, we're going through some troubled times, but we're going to make it. I have a prayer, but also there's sometimes in my time, and I'm sure in yours, that life gets so tough with family issues and all that's going on that you can't utter a prayer. You just want to be silent. But when you get times like that, when times comes that you just can't do something, I encourage you to turn to Psalms 23 and just read it, memorize it. So this morning, I just want us all, if you know it, say it with me. If you don't, have it together next year. The Lord is my shepherd. And I ask that you follow along and say it with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
We will now have the posting of the colors presented by the Franklin County High School, Western Hills High School, and Frankfort High School Junior ROTC. Singing of the national anthem will be the Frankfort High School Chorus. I kind of flipped the page a little quick there. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance by our auxiliary president, Edna Taylor. And we have a bunch of younger people out here in the stand. If you all would come forward and help us. If you don't, I'm going to come out there and recruit you.
Good morning. It's good to see everybody. It's good that all the vets are here. But take a look around us and see all these youth. They are our future. They are future veterans. They're the future of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. You did a great job. I think it's a lot of students from second school. You may be seated. We will now have the posting of the service colors by the Sons of American Revolution with the Frankfort High School Band playing the military service medley. If you are a member of the military, a veteran, or a family of a member, please stand when your branch of service is called. The United States Army, Army Reserve, and the Kentucky National Guard. The United States Navy and Navy Reserve. The United States Marine Corps and Marine Corps Reserve. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Air Force Reserve, and the Kentucky Air National Guard. The United States Space Force. Last year, we had a small presentation by Steve Brooks about the history of the Ward Oaks Amphitheater. This year, we will have a couple other historical presentations. Our guest speaker will talk about life as a young teenager growing up during World War II. We now have a special guest, Lieutenant Presley O'Banion, United States Marine Corps, portrayed by Mike Leverton with the Marine Corps League, who now lives in Franklin County and was a former sheriff of Scott County. Lieutenant, will you please come forward?
from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. It's part of the Marine Corps hymn. We are honored here in Frankfort, because a lot of people don't know this. Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon in 1805 was the first American to raise the United States flag on foreign soil in a war, and that was the Barbary Coast War. What was happening at that time, the pirates from Libya, which is Libya today, were capturing American ships and taking all of their goods and everything that they were transporting, and capturing the sailors and holding them ransom until the United States paid a lot of money to get them back. Well, Thomas Jefferson, the president, got tired of that, and he said, I'm going to send the United States Navy and the Marines over, and we're going to put a stop to this. And so they did. Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon took 450 Arabs and Christians through 600 miles of desert from what is today Alexandria, Egypt, all the way to Tripoli. And at Tripoli, they fought the battle and raised the flag of the United States on foreign soil. Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon is buried here in Frankfort. He's at the Frankfort Cemetery. When he got, that was in 1805. He got out of the Marine Corps in 1807 and moved to Kentucky. He moved to what is Russellville, Kentucky today in Logan County. His son was living there, so he moved there and built a house which is still in existence today. And while he was there, he was elected to the House of Representatives twice. And he also served one tour of duty with the Senate. And so Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon is one of the most famous. He's the Marine that put the Marine Corps on the map. And he's buried right here in Frankfort. I would encourage you to go to your cemeteries and look at your veterans. Frankfort has a bunch of famous veterans and people buried in the cemetery here. Lieutenant General Simon Buckner, World War II, was the highest ranking officer in the United States military to get killed in action. He got killed at Okinawa, and he is here now, and so is his dad. His dad was a lieutenant general in the Confederate Army and also became a governor of Kentucky. They're buried there too. So Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon is one of the most famous Marines that put the Marine Corps on the map, and he's buried right here. I would encourage you to go to your cemeteries, and especially this one, and just go through it and see all the famous people. Of course, here in Frankfort, we all know that Daniel Boone's supposed to be buried there, and Rebecca. That's a long story in itself, but there's a lot of famous people up there. And just take time to go visit your cemeteries and the veterans section of each cemetery, because the veterans of the war, freedom is not free. And everybody that's ever served in a uniform knows that to be so. Freedom is not free. So I want to take this time on behalf of Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon to thank every one of you veterans that served in one of the branches of the service. And I also like to include the families of them too, because without the families, the veterans can't do what they do. For every soldier, sailor, Marine, whatever on the front line, it takes 10 people behind the line to support them. And that goes back to each and every one of you. So you all are veterans in a way. So once again, Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon, thanks you for your service.
Representative Graham, did you teach that in your history class? He did, right. Thank you, Mike. At this time, the VFW Post Commander, Mr. Ronnie Conquest, will introduce our our guests of honors and others.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and veterans. First, I want to thank y'all for coming today, and I'm going to introduce some people that I got behind me. First, James Terrell, American Legion Post 7th State Commander. Mike Leverton, Marine Corps Lead. Michael Bueller, Franklin County Judge Executive. Lane Wilkerson, Frankfort Mayor. Derek Graham, our District 57 House State Representative. Jay Williams, State Senator. And Katrina Waldrich, our City Commissioner. Our Grand Marshal today is a Lieutenant Colonel. She began her military career in 2002 upon her enlistment in the Kentucky National Guard as a private first class. After completing her initial military training, she returned to the University of Kentucky, earning commission as a signal officer. As a lieutenant, she deployed to Iraq as an intelligence officer with the 149th Infantry Brigade. After her deployment, she served as a platoon leader, followed by executive officer and a communications staff officer with the 138th Field Artillery Brigade. Lieutenant Colonel Raisler deployed to Afghanistan in 2006 as a captain, serving as an agricultural advisor, specializing in women's outreach with the Kentucky Agricultural Development Team. Upon her return, she assumed command of the 138th Signal Company, followed by the 133rd Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, and later 2nd Battalion, 230th Regiment. She has been serving as a public affairs officer of the Kentucky National Guard since 2022. She recently began her two-year tour at the National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C. as a senior public advisor to the Director of the Army National Guard. Her decorations include the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and various other individual and unit service awards. She is also a proud Kentucky Colonel and a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 475. She is married to Brian Raisler. They have 2 children, Samantha and Drake. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lieutenant Colonel Carla A. Raisler.
Good morning, or soon to be afternoon here, everyone. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to our honored guests who are with us today. It is an honor to stand before you in the great Commonwealth on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month as part of our Veterans Day parade and recognition. Before I begin, please join me in a round of applause for members of the VFW, the Legion, Frankfort High School, our law enforcement, and our sons and daughters of the Revolutionary War, and everybody else that came together to put this day together for us. As a proud Lieutenant Colonel in the Kentucky National Guard, a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and a member of the VFW Post 4075 here in Frankfort, I am deeply moved by this moment and by all of you who have gathered to honor our veterans. Our veterans have shaped the country we live in. They have defended our freedoms, protected our values, and shown us true meaning of sacrifice. What binds all of us together across the years and across the conflicts is a shared commitment to duty, honor, and country. Our veterans have passed the torch of liberty from one generation to the next, ensuring that the flame of freedom continues to burn brightly. These freedoms were bought and paid for by the sacrifices of our veterans. From Valley Forge to Kandahar, our military members have stood watch over our liberties, often at a great personal expense, both to them and their families. They have left the comforts of their homes to face unknown dangers. They have missed birthdays, holidays, and precious moments with loved ones. Others have paid with their health, bearing physical and emotional scars that may never heal fully. And for some, far too many, they have paid the ultimate price, laying down their lives so that we might live in freedom. Their memory lives on the freedoms that we enjoy, and we honor their legacy by supporting the veterans who are still with us. Kentucky has a rich and endearing history of military service. Our state's sons and daughters have answered the call to service in every major conflict, from the Revolutionary War to present-day operations around the globe. Among them are some of our nation's most distinguished heroes. Kentucky has been home to 55 Medal of Honor recipients whose bravery exemplifies the highest ideals of service and of service. Now, I can't go over all 55, but I did choose a few to highlight. Some of these notable heroes are Sergeant John C. Squires of Louisville for gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty during World War II. Private First Class William Baugh of McKinney County, who in order to shield his fellow Marines from an enemy grenade, hurled himself upon the deadly missile, thereby saving his comrades from injury or death during the Korean War. And there is no more Marine-like thing to do. Staff Sergeant Don Jenkins, one of our living Medal of Honor recipients of Butler County, whose extraordinary valor, dedication, and indomitable spirit inspired his fellow soldiers to repulse a determined enemy attack and ultimately defeat a larger force during the Vietnam War. And last but not least, Sergeant Dakota L. Meyer, also a living Medal of Honor recipient of Adair County, whose daring initiative and bold fighting spirits throughout a 6-hour battle significantly disrupted the enemy's attack and inspired the members of the combined force to fight on during Operation Enduring Freedom. Their stories remind us of courages that knows no bounds, that the spirit of selflessness runs deep in our communities. I would be remiss not to highlight Staff Sergeant Leanne Hester, a Silver Star recipient who stands as a testament to the tenacity and valor of Kentuckians. Her actions during combat in Baghdad, Iraq, demonstrated extraordinary leadership and bravery under fire, earning her a place in history as one of the first women in the Army to receive the award and the very first to ever earn it for combat valor. Over the past 2 decades, we have seen significant strides for women in the armed forces, from being restricted in roles to now serving in combat and leadership positions. Women have proven that they belong at every level of service. We couldn't have done it without our brothers in arms. One of the most poignant symbols of our brothers' support and our collective progress is the mural at VFW Post 4075. It features First Lieutenant Anna Mark Clark of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, who was a pioneer in military leadership and ending segregation on military bases. In 1942, Clark joined the war effort through the all-volunteer Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. She went on to be the first female officer of color to graduate from the WAC Officer Candidate School. And in 1943, she earned the distinction as the first American WAC to command an all-white unit. Our legacy of first doesn't end with Staff Sergeant Hester or First Lieutenant Clark. Last year, Colonel Brandy Williams became the first woman to command the 149th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, headquartered in Richmond, Kentucky. The legacy of the 149th goes back to 1839, when it was established as the Louisville Legion in the Kentucky Militia. As a guardsman of 22 years, I have had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the dedication and sacrifice of those who choose service over self. Today, I also acknowledge the Kentucky National Guard men and women who have consistently risen to meet the needs of our state and nation. Whether in combat, disaster response, or community support, Your unwavering commitment is a reflection of the Kentucky's enduring spirit of service. In my current role as the Director of Public Affairs for the Army National Guard, I see daily the profound impact that service members across the globe have. Our shared mission to protect and serve transcends location and rank. It is a collective bond that unites all veterans, past and present. Today, we honor all who have served, remembering the freedoms we cherish come from the sacrifices made by those in uniform. Let us take a moment to reflect on the true cost of freedom, because behind every folded flag is a reminder that freedom isn't free, but is worth fighting for. Let us commit to support them, not just today, but every day. May we strive to embody the values they fought for and uphold the legacy of courage and dedication that defines Kentucky military history. Thank you, and fight like Kentuckians.
Thank you, Colonel. Our guest speaker today is he entered this service in 1952 in the Air Force. He attained the rank of Staff Sergeant before he honorably discharged. He continued his education, got a master's degree at University of Kentucky in 1958. He ranked #1 teaching certification from Eastern Kentucky University in 1973. He was the mayor of the city of Frankfort from 2009 to 2012. Kentucky State Representative 57 District from 1995 to 2002. He has a Kentucky Distinguished Service Medal from the Kentucky National Guard, a Paul Sullivan Award, Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, Outstanding Public Service Award, Kentucky Academy of Trail Lawyers. Our guest speaker is Gibby Graham today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and I'm so pleased to see so many young people. My charge for this today, according to Larry Montgomery, was to reflect on my memories of World War II as a teenager here in Frankfort. At the time that we entered World War II, I was soon to be 13 years old. I was in the 7th grade at Thornhill Elementary. I was a proud member of Boy Scout Troop 49, which was sponsored by the American Legion. I recall vividly the day that the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, December 7th, Sunday, 1941. I was living in Thornhill on Knoll Avenue, and that Sunday afternoon, as I walked in our living room, I saw my father bending over a radio, and when he saw me coming to the room, he looked up and said, "The Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor." My immediate response was, "Now we will show them." Now, the reason that I made that response was because for about 2 years, since World War II had started in 1939, on Saturdays, the young kids would come to Frankfort and go to one of the theaters. We had the Grand Theater, Capitol Theater, and the Franklin. You'd have a double feature, mostly cowboy movies, and good guys always won. Also, between the movies, they would have newsreels showing what was happening throughout the world. We also, while we were having problems in Europe with Adolf Hitler when he invaded Poland, and ultimately invaded about 11 other countries, and they were falling rapidly. We also were having problems in the Far East, and Chiang Kai-shek of China was fighting with the Japanese. So, and I was familiar already with the names of many of the leaders throughout the world. Of course, our old president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, who was the head of Great Britain, Adolf Hitler, leader of Germany, Benito Mussolini, leader of Italy, Hirohito, Emperor of Japan, and Tojo, the one who led his war effort, and others. So when my father told me that we were in on the war, just that teenage reaction was, we got to show the bad guys. Well, things did not go well initially. The next day, after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese invaded the Philippines, and the Philippines fell. Then before the month was over, a great naval battle was fought in the Pacific, the Wake Island, and our naval forces were defeated by the Japanese. So it was not a good time and a good beginning. Of course, we were comforted by what was called the fireside chats that our President Franklin D. Roosevelt would have. And he would calmly talk to the American public. And he would say such things as, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Prior to our entry to the war, the Germans had a great bombing campaign against Great Britain, trying to bomb them into submission. And as a result of that, Winston Churchill came out with the big V sign, with a cigar, a comforted person, and he made a speech once that resonated with me. He said, "We will fight them on the land, the beaches, in the air. We will never surrender. And if the empire stands for 1,000 years, people will say this was their finest hour." Now, we had a close relationship with Great Britain, and during this bombing period that was prior to our entry to the war, we had a program here in the United States called Bundles for Britain, and we were planning supplies to them, not war supplies, but humanitarian types of supplies. We also started in September of 1940 a draft. So people men in the United States between the ages of 21 and 45 would be drafted. And there were songs of that area, and I still remember many of the songs. But when our people started being drafted at the age of 21 to 45, they were drafted for a year. And there was a song came out, "I'll be back in a year, little darling." Of course, that did not happen because the war would break out, and then it became a longer period of time. Then also, there was another song that pertaining to the draft. It said, "This is the Army, Mr. Jones, no private rooms or telephones. And this is the Army, Mr. Brown, you and the ladies went to town. That's not going to happen again. This is the Army, Mr. Green, we like our barracks nice and clean." Another song that came out that had a lot of significance to me was "Smoke on the Water." And some of the words of that song had to do with the leadership of what was called the Axis powers, Italy, Japan, and Germany. And it said, "There'll be smoke on the water, on the land and the sea, when our army and navy overtake the enemy." And it mentions Hirohito, along with Hitler, will be riding on the rail, and Mussolini will beg for mercy for a leader he has failed. As things went on here in the United States, and our people started going into the military, there became a great void of being in our community. Frankfort had a population of around 11,000 people at that particular time. Our military force during World War II reached 16 million people. Our population as a nation, 140 million. So about 1 out of 9 people in the United States were taking part in the war, a significant part. And we will note, as the people begin to leave our community to go into the military, they would have flags in the windows with stars on them to indicate the number of people in that family that were serving in the military. Now, I myself, my older brother joined the Navy, but for medical reasons was discharged. However, next door neighbor, Nessa Rhodes, had 4. Herschel, Bud, Paul, and Ray. Across the street were the Hamptons, had 3. You had Ed, Preston, and Bob. Up the hill from Swigert Avenue had the triplets. They had 4. Robert, Harry, Charles, and LT. So all around the community was coming out. As things were going on, and people would gather and talk about what was happening. We all had someone we knew and cared for. There was called pen pals. Girls would start writing letters to soldiers who were on forward fronts. And as a result of that, they get returned letters, and then, of course the letters from the front would have some type of viewed by the leaders, and some things marked out because they don't want to let the enemy know where they were serving. And also at that particular time, we had victory gardens and the sale of war bonds to try to help the effort. Now, as a Boy Scout, there's 2 things I remember. One is that we had to have more metal to provide for the building of tanks, and planes, ammunition. And so on Saturdays, we get a big farm truck, and we go around the community and gather metal. Some people will give the metal fits, and we get a bundle of newspapers, and we take them down to we call it the junkyard on Home Street, put it there, and then ultimately it was sent someplace to be used in the war effort. And that made us feel proud that we were doing something to help our country. Another thing that sticks in my mind and made great significance was that we had a Homeland Security. I don't recall the person who headed it up, but I know that we had a practice air raid in case the German would have come to attack us from the east. So I remember that the siren was supposed to blow, which it did. And as I mentioned before, I was living in Thornhill, had a bicycle, and when that night when we had the air raid, the siren sounded. I was supposed to jump on my bike, drive up to Home Street where the headquarters was, and be able to be a messenger boy in case had to have a message sent from somewhere, headquarters there across town, because they were concerned about if you had lights on or because of radio communication that the enemy would hear. Well, as I look back on that, that was sort of funny. That wasn't going to happen. But at that particular time, it made me, as a youth, feel a part of this. As a student in the 7th and 8th grade at Thornhill, they tried to educate us about what was happening and where. There was a news program that would come on around noontime. And Roy Bonner, who later became the superintendent of Franklin County School, for whom Bonner School is named, was a 7th grade teacher when the war broke out. And we had folding doors between the 7th and 8th grade. And we'd pull the doors back, and at noontime, listen to a radio report from Europe. Edward R. Murrow was the reporter, and he would tell us about what is happening. And once the program was over, our teachers, we have to take notes. Our teachers would critique us about what it was we heard. Where is this happening? And we would find it on a map or on a globe. And it made us feel more of a part and a feeling of what we had to know about our country and the love of our country. Well, no, I don't have any more minutes. I'll be called off of here. I could talk forever on this. But I want to mention to you, there toward the end of the war, with the D-Day in 1944, we started from being defected. They were going to cross into Europe. The Russians had stopped the Japanese. The Russians had stopped the Germans, I beg your pardon, at Stalingrad. And so they were moving back toward Berlin, and we started moving toward Berlin. So in February of 45, at the conference of Yalta, when Roosevelt and Stalin of Russia, who was our ally, and Churchill met at a place called Yalta to talk about the ending of the war and what would be happening, because we knew that Germany would surrender before Japan did. Shortly after that meeting, on April 12th, Franklin D. Roosevelt died. On April the 28th, Benito Mussolini, the leader of Italy, was where the forces were losing. He was trying to get out of the country. He was captured by their own citizens and shot and hung upside down across the street in northern Italy. On April the 30th, Adolf Hitler committed suicide. On May the 7th, Germany surrendered, and now the forces could be focused on trying to defeat Japan. I recall my brother-in-law, who was in the Navy, he's serving in the Pacific, and his ship, USS Chenango, an Air Force carrier, had been in the Pacific, and he'd come back into dock somewhere on the East Coast, and he had a few days pass, and he came home for a couple, 3 days to visit. Now this was after Germany had surrendered, but the idea was if we were going to beat Japan, it would take many lives. I've heard a number of million lives. And it was an emotional goodbye when he left, because we knew that it was going to be a long struggle. However, on August the 6th of 1945, we dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. And with one bomb, killed 69,000 people. We asked for unconditional surrender. The Japanese denied it. Only 3 days later, we dropped the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki. 39,000 people killed with one bomb. On August the 14th, the Japanese surrendered unconditionally. Now on that day, August 14th, 1945, I was riding my bicycle from Thorn Hill to 2nd Street School. We had a baseball diamond, softball diamond there, which is down the playground at 2nd Street School. As I rode across the Singing Bridge, went down and made a turn to go down to 2nd Street, a siren went off. I knew immediately that the war was over. I turned around, I knew we would not have a game. I turned around on 2nd Street, came back across the Singing Bridge, and people were coming out of the stores, cheering and hugging, because they now knew that the war was over. And it was a happy time. Now, a while ago, the previous speaker, when mentioned about our missions today, and to decide what it was, well, that's what we celebrated when I was a Boy Scout back in those years, was our business day. And we know that when the thousands of people that were killed in the World War I, 14,224 people, American people, are buried in a place called Flanders, in Flanders Field. And there was a poem. Most of you may have read that poem. If not, it's something that I think you could reflect on. Because in the poem Flanders Field, it speaks of the people who have died, of those 14,246 people. And they're wondering if they had died in vain. And so a poem was written. It starts off, in Flanders Field, the poppies blow, the three crosses roll along. But it's toward the end, it says, like the dead speaking to the us living. Take up the quarrel of the foe. To you, with failing hand we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with those of us who die, we will not sleep, though poppies grow on Flanders Hill. Now, there are several poems written in response to that poem. The one that there were several I liked. The one says, "Rest ye in peace, ye Flanders dead. The battle-worn fight that you so bravely led, we have taken up. Fear not, you have not died for naught." Now, the words of those poems still have meaning today. And I hope they resonate in the heart of each of us, and also our nation as a whole. Thank you.
I was going to say, Kippy, you forgot your notes, but there were no notes. Pretty emotional here. We will now have My Old Kentucky Home by Laura Redmond.
The sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the meadows in the bloom, while the birds make music all the day. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all merry, all happy and bright. By hard times comes a knocking at the door, then my old Kentucky home, good night. Weep no more, my lady, oh, weep no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away.
We will now have the American Creed read by Sawyer Wainscott from 2nd Street Middle School and Campbell Goins from Bondurant Middle School.
I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are different from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes.
I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
Reverend Tim Jump will now lead us in the benediction. Following that, we will have the 21 gun salute by the VFW Post 4075 Honor Guard and the playing of taps by the National Guard Band. Please stand.
What a way to end this service was, wow, I could sit and listen to Gippy all day. He's a blessed man, 95 and got a memory like that. Powerful. But what a joy and a pleasure it is to be part of this. And I'm no bigger part or anybody here than you. Take these and cherish these moments, kids. Cherish these moments. Father, we come to you today thanking for all the blessings of life. And I thank you, Lord, for the peace and the calm and just feeling your mighty presence today, Lord. Bless all the services that are taking place not only in Kentucky but all over the United States and the world. Remember this moment, special. And I ask that traveling mercy follow each and every one. Let it be a day of remembrance, joy, peace, and comfort. And we'll give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor. Amen and amen.
You may be seated. I'm now going to ask that Darrell Casey, former commander of VFW Post, with some exciting news. You may already know about it, but this Veterans Crisis Center that we now have located, he's going to give you a lot of information about that, please.
Good afternoon, friends. Thank you again. Thank you all for coming out today and celebrating this with us. So what we've done at the VFW Post is we saw a need in the community, to help veterans with life. You know, sometimes veterans have hard times with things that happen to them while they're in the service. With sometimes, you know, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face, right? So, so what we've opened at the VFW is we've started what we call the Veteran Resource Center. What that is, it's manned by volunteers. It costs absolutely nothing to come in. And what we do is say a veteran needs help filing disability claims. A veteran needs help, or a spouse of a veteran who has passed away needs help with information or help with survivor benefits. we're there for you. We've been open about 2 months, and we've already helped close to 40 veterans file claims, get the help that they need and the help that they deserve and earned. So I ask you to please, if you know of a veteran who is in need, or a veteran who is trying to file a disability claim and getting frustrated, because it's very easy to do that, I ask you to please reach out to us at the Veteran Resource Center. I will be at the post after this at post 4075. And if you have any questions or concerns, please come find me and I will be happy to help you. We can make an appointment at your convenience and come in to the office and we can do what we can to help you. All right? I've always said veterans don't want handouts. They just need a hand up. And we're that hand up for them to help kind of get them back on their feet. So please reach out to the Veteran Resource Center and just understand that it's not just for Frankfort and Franklin County. It's for any veteran in any county, anywhere. Anything we can do to help them, we're here for them. Thank you.
In speaking with Brother Tim, it was my understanding he's very seriously thinking about retiring, but still serving his local church. Brother Tim has been with us for several years, and the thing I like about Brother Tim's prayers and invocations is that they're short. He keeps them very short and does an outstanding job. And Brother Tim, on the card of your retirement, on behalf of the VFW Post 4075 and Auxiliary, we'd like to present you with this remembrance card. The VFW welcomes you home. Service, sacrifice. You took the freedom to a distant land and gave hope to a world of oppression. We will not forget you, Brother Tim. As a former educator, you have to have props, okay? In my closing remarks in the past, we have talked about the military oath, dog tags, P-38 can openers, Alvin J. King and his role in helping with Veterans Day from Kansas, KP duty, guards of the Tomb of the Unknowns, donut dollars, POWs, and MIAs. I had planned on talking to you about the USO and Bob Hope today, but I want to take this on a much lighter side, a different topic. On August the 24th of this year, I had the great opportunity to go on an honor flight to Washington, D.C. And on that trip, on our return back, we were in the Ronald Reagan Airport waiting for dinner to be served. And they decided it was mail call. And with that, every veteran's name was called. And they were given a homemade bag, stitched with zippers, And inside were probably 150 or more personal notes from students, church groups, all thanking us for our service as we read those. But one note stood out the most. And I carry this in my wallet, or billfold. You had no idea where these came from. Different elementary schools, some of them were pictures that elementary kids had colored. But this one kind of stuck out. My name is Landon. Thank you for fighting and putting your life on the line. Have a lot of fun at the bars when you get back. I feel grateful for your service because you got to kill people and party hard. Now, one, I don't think his teacher saw this note. And two, Mike, I think he's going to make a pretty good Marine. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. If you will look on the back of your program, just some of the people that took part in organizations. We can't take time to name individual names. The City Fire Department, the Police Department, the Transportation Department, and a great big shout out to Parks and Rec, and Historical, and the downtown crew. They were here early this morning. They'll be here late after you leave, taking things down and arranging parking, so a big ride. If I'm incorrect on this, but if you need to ride back to the Commonwealth Credit Union, one of the city buses will be over here to take you back. And don't forget about lunch over at the Post 475. And as you enter the VFW Post, please take time to note those plaques on the wall on the right-hand side of those in Franklin County who made the ultimate sacrifice, which we will never, ever forget. Thank you and have a blessed day.